think these are quite exciting times, that important shifts are possible. And we know that important shifts are possible because we're feeling tension around us. We can feel tension around old mindsets starting to creak and shift because they're being contested. So how people think and act in the world around race, around gender, around environment, around economy, there's tension and there's things being contested, and that is a signal that tells me here is fertile ground. Come towards this because something is going to happen. Something can be pushed at and shifted here. I think we've got a chance to revalue relationships and belonging. I think we're having an important moment about that, and we need to be able to seize that. I think we're having an important moment around revaluing what gets called social infrastructure, all those places of belonging that, the physical places, and also perhaps the people and relationships outside of our family home and outside of our friendship network that are there in community that knit us together. I think we're having a time, there's a chance now to revalue that and stand up for that. So that makes it an exciting time for social leadership. And I think the prevalence of new kinds of power. So, I have also been influenced by and enlightened by the New Power, Old Power book that was published a few years ago, and really recognize it and think it's really helped my thinking as well. That there is, obviously, if you do community organising, which is one of the things we do, that there is positional power, which comes from your job and the power that you can wield as a politician or as a chief exec of a local authority or of a big business. But there's also relational power, the power that can be created when people who care about the same thing come together to take action on it. And that's the kind of power that communities have often. It may go untapped, but it is there. It's latent. It's there, and there's that kind of power has really been ramped up by digital technology. That our ability to flow that kind of power through digital networks, through social media, has got a lot stronger. Now, that is also used for very nefarious ends. QAnon, anti-vaxxers, Trump's way of challenging the electoral result. That kind of power is being understood and grabbed by those who want to undermine democracy. But it's for us to take that back. It's for us to say, no, we can grab hold of that kind of power. We can channel that kind of power for good. And now is the time to do that. And that is classic dispersed leadership. That is about recognizing that the sorts of problems and challenges, social challenges that we want to act on, cannot be solved by single organizations or pivotal leaders. They have to work, collaboratively. They have to work across sector. Maybe they have to blend old and new power. We have to figure that out, how the old and new power come together in some sort of allyship for progressive ends. There's so much rich kind of possibility and opportunity for that kind of leadership facing us right now. If I think about the pandemic and the leadership test that was presented by the pandemic, for us it was about, and it did worry me at first, we weren't in the emergency space. We weren't responding to the emergency. We weren't about food, medicines, advice. And I started to worry that the organizations who seemed to matter and were getting recognition were those who were going into that space, pulling out all the stops to help. And it took some courage to say, that's not what we do. We don't respond to crisis in normal times. We're not about meeting need and staunching crisis need in normal times. So we're not going to be about that now either. We're going to look inward and think, what's our best response? Let's pause. Let's not react. Let's think about our best response and then go out into the world. And it felt like we needed to hold our nerve a little bit. I definitely remember feeling that it was counterintuitive that we needed to look outwards and get involved and get our hands dirty, not look inwards and pause. But actually, not just me, but colleagues were urging that that's what we needed to do, and that we could figure out our best response if we did that. And that's what we did. And our best response was really to think about, well, we had a whole movement around isolation and loneliness. So how could we make sure everything we'd already built was strong and safe? So we did that. And then how could we make sure it was reaching more people? And then how could we use the pandemic as a way of shifting mindsets? So, you know, the pandemic was throwing up the importance of relationships and connections. So how could we use that to amplify our mission?